Hey everybody, it is Antnie here, and today I want to talk about the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One right before the PlayStation 4's launch here coming up on Friday. And my dog heard the excitement of the next-gen consoles, so she's running to hear what the fuss is about, right? No? Which one are you buying? Which one are you going to buy? Which one are you going to buy? She doesn't know yet. So with the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, a lot of people are talking about the resolution of the consoles, and I wanted to chime in a little bit here about resolution on next-gen consoles and what it kind of means, because I want to give my 2 cents. So resolution, in case you aren't familiar, is the way that the game runs, how many pixels, like a game 1080p, 720p, 1440p, 4K resolution. It's just the number of pixels you're pushing on that game. So a lot of the controversy is coming around comparing games between the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One versions. Call of Duty, Battlefield to be the main ones, I believe, that people are comparing. So like Call of Duty is running 1080p native on PS4 and 720p upscaled to 1080p on Xbox One. And Battlefield, I think, is running 720p on Xbox One and 900 on the PS4. Then you have games like Killzone on PS4 running 1080p, and then you have Knack 1080p, all sorts of other games running 1080p. Whereas on Xbox One you have Dead Rising running at maybe 720, and then you have Rise at 900. And I want to talk a little bit about here, because when you just spit out numbers, it sounds different than, because you could have an indie game running at 4K on a PS4 where it's just like a side-scrolling 8-bit style, but it's 4K. So that doesn't really mean anything when you just talk about it like that. But let's talk about what it means, like with Dead Rising being at 720p. So Dead Rising, the developers at Capcom specifically said they wanted it to be they wanted to focus more on the zombies and having as many on the screen, as many different variations of zombies and stuff like that. So that's why it's at 720p, because they had to make a compromise somewhere. That's the thing, you got to compromise. If you wanted Dead Rising on the Xbox One and you wanted it 1080p, instead of having 1,000 zombies on screen where there's 100 variations of them, you might get 700 zombies on screen where there's 4 variations or 5 variations. So that slight resolution difference for the developers of Dead Rising 3, they thought definitely more valuable to them to have more zombies and more variations on screen than it is to have the 720p to 1080p bump. And what some people aren't thinking about too with resolution is they're thinking, oh, 720p, 1080p, it's not that big of a difference. Well, at a distance, you're sitting far away from your TV, you might not notice a difference. There is a huge difference in the amount of pixels between 720 and 1080. It's almost, I think it's like about 1 million pixels more. So there is quite a lot more pixels between 720 and 1080. And then another game you have like Killzone on the PlayStation 4 running at 1080 at 60 frames and all that great stuff, and it looks great. It's got all sorts of stuff going on. It's a shooter. It's smooth. Apparently, I haven't played it yet, but I'm sure they made a compromise somewhere where they could have gotten 100 frames a second, but they bumped it down to 60. So you have to make compromises when they're developing the games. And what a lot of people are complaining about or worried about is when you're comparing multi-platform games, because those were exclusives on their own platforms. Now you have multi-platforms like Call of Duty and Battlefield, where obviously one is running at a higher resolution with the same frames on the other system. So PlayStation 4 currently being the one where games are running at higher resolutions than the Xbox One. So people are worried that in the future, what's that going to mean? Where games are still going to be performing better on PlayStation 4 compared to Xbox One? Nobody knows for sure right now. It could be that it might be harder to optimize for the Xbox One at the moment, where they've only had a couple months with the actual hardware and they haven't got full optimization for it. Nobody knows right now. The real factor is going to come in maybe a year from now, next holiday season. If this is still an issue, then there's the problem with the Xbox One, that it is definitely not as powerful, or you can't optimize as well on it compared to a PlayStation 4. If that is still going on next year, then Microsoft has to worry about something, because there's a definite problem in their design of the system and how developers can make games for it. But at the moment, my opinion on it, does resolution make a difference? Yes, it makes a difference, because not only does it mean that you can put more power into the system. So the amount of power difference between running a game at 1080 and 720 is, for a console, is pretty significant. And in the future, if all games run at 1080 across both consoles, while the PlayStation can easily do it and the Xbox is just being able to do it, if the PlayStation can easily do it, then that means games can also run at 1080 and have more particles, more do things that in games you can't normally do, like how Dead Rising chose to do more zombies on screen than higher resolution. Imagine having higher resolution and being able to have more zombies on the screen compared to just more zombies. I know some people don't care about resolution, they say graphics don't matter, but it's not necessarily just about graphics and a resolution. It's more about what the system can do that couldn't have been done before or the other system can't do. So last gen you couldn't have 1,000 zombies on screen with tons of variations. This gen you could, and while that might not make graphics any different, it's going to make the gameplay different when you have more zombies. Instead of having 100, you have 1,000 now. So resolution, this whole resolution gate kind of thing, it does make a difference. It does mean something beyond just graphics. And yeah, so I'm interested to see in a year from now where it goes from that, because right now it doesn't really mean much. It's like it's comparing things right out of the gate that aren't really made for the consoles. They're kind of just ports to the next gen consoles. So let me know in the comments section underneath that like button what you guys think about this whole resolution gate. Leave your comments. I'll be replying to as many of them as I can. Subscribe for more stuff, and I will see you guys in a couple days with an unboxing of a console. Ow, Molly. Gosh, I'm sorry. I didn't hit you though. Oh.